You own a camera, you own lenses, you own flashes and accessories. You have the skills, you know how to use light. You know how apertures... Sorry, 1 second. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this video is sponsored by Hasselblad. Hasselblad have sent me an X2D 100C medium format camera in exchange for making a video for them. Now, regular viewers to this channel will know that I don't normally do this sort of thing, but Hasselblad have given me a load of creative freedom and they're literally letting me make the video I was already making. So I thought that sounded like a good deal. So I'm going to be using this camera in the video. It's not a review video, but I will share some thoughts on the camera towards the end of the video in case anyone's interested. Anyway, back to the video. So, you own a camera, you own lenses, you own flashes and accessories. You have the skills, you know how to use light, you know how apertures work, you understand shutter speed and ISO, you know how to compose a frame, you know how to edit and process your images. But there's one thing missing, and it's arguably the most important thing in your photography. What do you take photographs of? Oh, such a nice day. We've had like a month of rain. This is my local park. I will never tire of this view. It's amazing up here. A few years ago, I got put on the waiting list for a liver transplant. If you want to know a bit more about that, you can watch this video on my channel entitled Why I Disappeared, How Bowie's Advice Changed My Attitude. This one. But this means that I could be called up anytime, night or day, and I'd need to go straight to the hospital for the operation. So I stopped taking on most photographic jobs because I can't risk getting the call the morning of someone's wedding and then letting them down on the most important day of their lives. But without a photographic purpose, I was left feeling a bit demotivated. Because taking shots of your life, of your family, of your friends, it's nice, but it's fairly useless beyond personal keepsakes, which are of course valuable in their own right. But while you may get the odd one to post to Instagram, you'll unlikely make a book out of them, you'll unlikely put on an exhibition. Without a focus, your photography can end up feeling a bit aimless. Because creativity is, in essence, another word for problem solving. Whether that problem is something very practical, like a creative storage solution for a small living space, or something more conceptual and abstract, like a piece of media that evokes a feeling for an audience. Problems are really the fuel of creativity. It's difficult to be creative when you have complete freedom, when you don't have a brief to follow, when you don't have confines, when you don't have rules that you have to work within. It's those boundaries that constrict us that help us think creatively. Those limitations, they drive us to explore unconventional methods or combine existing ideas in novel ways. And boundaries also narrow down the possibilities, which helps us avoid things like decision paralysis. And it forces us to explore the only available options, but to a much deeper level of creativity and insight. So when we find ourselves faced with no problems to solve, it's good to construct our own boundaries. And one way we can do that is by setting ourselves a project. There are multiple benefits of starting a project. Firstly, you'll start to see images everywhere, even when you don't have a camera in your hand, because you'll be thinking about it all the time. It's also a great way to build up a portfolio, and that can help attract clients, collaborators, publishers. But it also teaches you how to curate what images to put next to each other, what order to put them in, what to leave in, what to take out. These are all important skills. But how do you come up with a good project idea? Well, there's no one simple answer to this, but here are 7 tips to help you get started. Number 1, go with your gut. One of the best ways to find a project is to simply just start shooting without overthinking. Let your subconscious mind just drive and go out and take photographs of anything that catches your attention and trust your instincts. If something feels interesting to you, just photograph it. And if you do this consistently for a few weeks, then you look at what you've shot, you may see a pattern or a theme starting to emerge, and you might not know immediately what it is about that interests you, but keep going with it. Because A key memory for me is back when I was at university in 2001 and I'd become really obsessed with taking photographs of the sky. So I went to my tutor and I showed him what I'd been doing and I said, I'm not sure why I'm doing this, I'm not sure if I should keep doing it. And I expected him to tell me to give it up, to get on with my other projects, but he said, no, keep doing it, keep going. There will be a reason you're doing it, you just need to find it. And it turned out there was a reason. It was all based around my travelling to New York around the time of 9/11 and how the context of images of the sky had changed and how we ascribe meaning to the seemingly meaningless based on our own preconceptions and the media that surrounds us. But that's a story for another time, really. My point is that the process isn't necessarily a linear progression of concepts leading to image making. It can be a bit more fluid than that. But basically, don't overthink it. Number 2, keep it personal. So ask yourself, what matters to me? What am I passionate about? Your best work will come from a place of honesty, so don't try and second guess what you think other people want to see. Make something that is authentically you. And if you're passionate about it, it will resonate with an audience. Number 3, you don't have to travel. So while going somewhere new or far away can give you a load of motivation, it's also easy to overlook what's right under your nose. So try learning a bit more about your local area, talk to local people, find out their stories. Look closer at those things that you pass every day, because there's always more to learn about places that you think you know well. Maybe you could try focusing on a more emotively driven approach as well. So how does your local area make you feel? What do you love about it? What frustrates you about it? What amuses you about it? What scares you about it? Maybe your project is less about the literal interpretation of an area and more about a feeling or a state of mind. Sofia Coppola's 2003 movie Lost in Translation springs to mind here. Because while Tokyo is the setting, the film isn't so much about Tokyo as it is about Scarlett Johansson's character and how she feels about being there. Number 4, let the subject lead. So try to avoid being overly influenced by the work of other photographers or forcing a preconceived aesthetic. Focus on the concept and themes of your projects first. Let the subject dictate the form of your images. This approach will keep your images authentic and unique. Number 5, don't keep it secret. You really don't need to be secretive. Don't worry about people maybe trying to copy you. They might try, but there's 2 things. Firstly, if you publicly announce something, you can always prove that you had that idea first. But more importantly, let them use your idea. They'll likely do something very different because we all think in different ways. Great art can rarely be copied because it's so much about the artist. And sharing a project can invite really valuable feedback. People can help you find more things for your projects, subjects, locations. Discussions about your project may help you realise new ideas. The more you engage with others, the more knowledge you can gather and the more it will enrich your own work. Number 6, don't rush it. Take it slowly. The advantage of working to your own brief is that you don't need to rush stuff out, so you can take your time. You can leave things and come back to them later. You may find that you start to lose motivation after a while, and that's okay. Just step away, examine why you've lost your drive. Don't force yourself to carry on when you're not feeling it. If you're bored when you're making the work, it's likely that your audience will be bored when they're looking at the work, because I do think passion communicates. So maybe just try changing what you're doing for a bit. This could be something within the project, it could be working on a different project. You can always come back to stuff later. Many well-respected photographers have projects that span years and decades. Number 7, research. So while I advocated to draw your influence from real things rather than other photographers' work, it is a good idea to spend some time looking at the projects that other photographers have done. And try getting off the internet to do this. Look at photography books, because that's where some of the best projects can be found. I got this book the other day. This Pleasant Land, published by Hoxton Press. It's the work of 24 different photographers and their take on the British landscape. There's a load of great projects in here. If you study photographic books, you can see how the projects are curated. You can read about the thought behind them, the process they went through, and this will help you devise and refine your own ideas. So it's all very well for me to dish out these tips, but can I go and find a project myself? So I've got a deadline from Hasselblad to get this video out, so I'm just going to start a project, not looking to finish it. But let's see what I can do. So I've been working on a project for just over a year called Time and Tide. I've talked about it a bit on my channel before. And it's about nature's omnipresence and how whatever we build becomes subject to entropy and ultimately gets reclaimed by nature. But that's a project I'm doing on a 590nm infrared camera. And I don't quite feel like wrenching the hot mirror off the sensor in this camera just yet. So I'm looking for something new. So what are my boundaries? So I'm not really able to travel to exotic foreign lands at the moment due to healthcare issues and childcare responsibilities. And it's November in the UK and the weather has been cold and wintry and grey and depressing for weeks. Lots of rain, lots of drizzle, a bit of mist. I'd like it to be summer. I'd like to be somewhere else, but I'm not. So let's take these things as creative boundaries. Hasselblad also offered me one lens with the camera, so I picked the 55mm, which is around a 43mm equivalent in full frame terms, because that sounded like a good all-rounder to me, and I like doing environmental portraits, and I thought that would be a kind of appropriate focal length. So I suppose that becomes another creative boundary. So I went out and I started taking some shots. I took some portraits, I took some other random shots, went to London, had a walk around. So two things jumped out to me in terms of potential projects. Firstly, these kind of unintentional still lives. It was just something I found interesting about them. These chairs especially. I liked how the third one out of the four was different. And this is an arrangement technique I see in photographs sometimes, such as this Joel Meyerowitz shot here that was in the Tate. We've got these four guys and this third guy along is facing the other way to the others. But I was looking for something that played a bit more into the weather. And the other potential project I had from my initial shoot was inspired by this deserted shot of a bowls green that I took in my local park. I kind of like how the mist and the emptiness makes a slightly unsettling quality. I've talked about this before. There's something about the spaces designed for people. When no people are there, they become slightly unnerving. So I decided to go down to a park that I used to go to when I was a kid to see if there was anything in the sort of deserted nature of the parks at this time of year and these cold, misty days. And this park is very Warrenous and it has a railway line and a canal running through it. And I have memories of going down to the walkway by the railway tracks and it feeling very quiet and creepy when I was a kid. I decided to shoot these images in black and white, and I'm not normally a black and white shooter, but I like the idea of the images having a slightly timeless feel to them. There's something about the absence of colour that adds to that sense of stillness for me. So I shot some scenes of this deserted park and I also looked at some textures and some abstract shots to kind of balance out the wider scenes. I really like the way this Corinthian column mirrors the tree in this shot. But after a while, I felt like I ran into a bit of a dead end, and I gave some feedback on these and people said they didn't find them that interesting, so I gave it up. I'd be interested to know what you think of these. If you have an opinion on these shots, leave me a comment. Was I right to drop this project, or do you think I should have kept going with it? I honestly don't know. Anyway, I parked this project, no pun intended, and I started looking for something completely different. So there's an area that's about an hour's drive from my house called Avonmouth, and it's on the outskirts of the city of Bristol, and it's situated where the mouth of the River Avon meets the Severn Estuary. And historically, it's been an industrial and port area, serving as one of the key gateways for shipping and logistics to the UK. But a lot of that industry has since shut down, and there's a lot of rundown and abandoned old factories and warehouses. But what's really interesting about this area is that it's also residential. There's a community there, and that community feels somewhat neglected because it's kind of cut off from the rest of the city by the M5 motorway. It feels a bit like a lost village that's been swallowed by this industry around it. So I went there to take some photos. And I felt there was something more interesting here, something to be discovered. It felt very bleak. This is a shot of Severn Beach. If you can find me a more depressing looking beach, I'll be impressed. I think the bleakness of this area really comes through in these photos, but I was wondering how to make them a bit more dynamic. So another thing about this time of year is how little daylight we get. It gets dark so early. So I was thinking, why not use that as a creative boundary? Because another thing this camera does is it shoots in Hasselblad's panoramic X-pan ratio. And that's pretty far out of my comfort zone, because I'm generally in sort of 8:10 kind of ratio person normally. So I saw that as a challenge, and I went back at night to take some long exposure X-pan panoramas of the area. Lucky this isn't completely terrifying. I was quite happy with how these shots were turning out. We've got all these shots of the factories, the industrial plants, the docks, but we've also got these little streets where you have houses and pubs and takeaways, but with these huge industrial structures just towering over them. I think this one's my favourite shot. I really like the leading line and how this suburban scene kind of transforms into this huge industrial plant that's kicking out all this smoke with these bright lights. I only spent a few hours there, so I think I might go back at another time, see if I can get some more of these panoramas. And I've also arranged to go down to the community centre and take some portraits of some of the residents down there. I don't yet know how this photography project is going to finally manifest itself, but I think in starting this, I've at least found an interesting subject. So starting new photographic projects has really rekindled a sense of purpose in my photography. It's really brought a level of excitement to my process, and it's brought a kind of clarity to the creative direction of my work. Because when we work on a project, even if none of the shots make it into the final cut, the process itself has inherent value because it enhances our skill set, it sharpens up our conceptual thinking. And you never know, while you're doing this, you may just find a really, truly brilliant and inspiring project. So I'm going to talk about the Hasselblad camera a bit now, not because Hasselblad asked me to, but because I know I'll get a lot of questions about it. And although Hasselblad sponsored this video by giving me the camera, I've not been asked to say anything specific, so these are all my own thoughts and opinions. The reason I'm doing this little caveat is because I don't normally do camera reviews on this channel, and that's not because I don't like gear reviews or I don't think they're valuable, but it's because I think there's enough of them on YouTube already. And I do think cameras are important, because it's important to find the camera that fits you, that fits your shooting, that fits your budget, that gives you the look you want in your images. And this will be different for everyone. So please take this information as subjective to me and not necessarily applicable to you. Ultimately, photography is about the photos, and you need to just get there by whatever means work for you. And if you're bothered about what camera systems other people are shooting on, then get a life. Okay. So, cards on the table. I obviously need to earn an income to support myself and my family. And when Hasselblad offered to send me this camera, I thought, okay, well, I'll make a video with it and then I'll sell it, because I already have a Fuji GFX system I'm very happy with, and that will be my income for this video. But, plot twist, I'm now eBaying the Fuji stuff and I'm keeping the Hasselblad. Wasn't expecting that. So why am I keeping this and not the Fuji? Primarily, and this may sound superficial, it's just so nice to shoot with. It's probably the most beautiful camera I've ever used. The ergonomics and aesthetics are so well designed. The menu system, the touchscreen, it's the best I've ever used on any camera. And it's all those little details, and it just makes for a really enjoyable shooting experience. And this may sound like a rather vacuous choice, but it's the thing that makes me want to shoot with the camera. It makes me want to pick it up. And cameras are such a personal thing, and it just feels right for me. It's also incredibly compact for a medium format system. If you look at this Canon APS-C camera here and the Hasselblad, they're kind of about the same size. It's all metal and it feels really robust, but it's not overly heavy, and the grip's really comfortable to hold, so I've had no issue holding it, walking around all day. Because the image quality is outstanding, I love that medium format look. And one thing that particularly blew me away with this camera that I wasn't expecting was the in-body image stabilization. I've never had a camera with stabilization as good as this. So check out this test shot I took. It was a long exposure of 7 seconds. This was handheld for 7 seconds. That's a long time. This shot of St Pancras was taken at a shutter speed of 0.3 seconds. And if we zoom into 100%, it is pin sharp. And this image is 100 megapixels. That's a big ask. So this just opens up the possibilities for different photo opportunities for me quite significantly. Another great thing about this for me is that it has a 1 terabyte SSD for internal storage, as well as the CF Express card slot. And this is really great for someone like me, because I have ADHD and I might easily grab my camera, go out somewhere to shoot, and then when I get there, I find I've left my memory card in the card reader on my desk. But I literally can't leave the SSD at home because it's built into the camera. So on the downside, the autofocus is a bit patchy. It works most of the time, it has face detect, but it struggles in low light, and it can occasionally give false positives for locking onto focus. For those X-Pan night shots I took, it was too dark for it to autofocus at all, and I had to focus manually. Which wasn't really an issue because of the huge screen and the really nice way you manual focus. It was really easy. So since making this video, I've bought a few more lenses with my own money, which has actually made this video a net loss for me, but never mind. But one more downside I would say about the Hasselblad lenses is that they are aggressively sharp. Now that works well for some people, but for me, I like a slightly more soft, filmy type look. This is easily sorted by putting on a quarter strength Pro Mist filter. And that just makes the images that come out of this lens absolutely just stunning. So it's not really an issue. So, I mean, to be honest, it's difficult to find fault with this camera, but then you would expect that at this price. And that is the elephant in the room, isn't it? The price. For most people, this camera will be prohibitively expensive. I was only able to get one because Hasselblad gave it to me. So who is this camera for? It's not going to give you amazing autofocus or ridiculously high burst rates. This camera is focused on producing the most stunning image quality available on the market. So I wouldn't recommend this to someone like a sports photographer. I would probably recommend this to someone who does a genre that's a bit more considered and slower. Someone like a portrait photographer, landscape photographers, travel photographers, fine art photographers, anyone who wants the best image quality available on the market and has enough income to justify the cost of this camera. Or just someone with a hobby and a very large amount of disposable income. So, thank you Hasselblad for sending me the X2D 100C. This camera has really blown me away in a way I didn't expect. But it is a lot of money. But then you get what you pay for. And I'm very lucky to be in a position where I can get my hands on one of these. So I'm going to keep it. I'll see you next time.